and what kind of study or what kind of analysis that I should do about the task environment. So while doing the analysis of task environment, these are few ways in which this is not the only way in which you can talk about the environments, but these are certain key points that you need to remember while analyzing or while finding out what kind of environment the agent works in. Okay, if you find out these properties of the task environment, it will be you will be in a good position. Actually, the designer will be in a good position to choose appropriate design combination for implementing a solution. Okay, so study of task environment involves identifying certain properties of task environment, and these properties will guide. It's a combination of these properties that we are going to find for certain situation, and once we have this combination of properties, we will be in a position to be choosing appropriate architecture for our rational agent. So what we are building a rational agent. To build a rational agent, before building it or before designing it, we should start analyzing. And to analyze, we need to formulate the task environment. Four things we need to formulate in task environment: performance measure, actuators, sensors, and the environment itself. To properly analyze the environment, or while doing the analysis of the environment, we need to figure out certain properties that the task environment may show off or may exemplify. Okay, so these are the 7 different aspects in which we can categorize or find out certain niche descriptors for the task environment. So we're trying to find out certain descriptors for task environment, and we will choose labels that we see over here on this particular board. Okay, so there are 7 different things listed over here. I'll just quickly read through them. Number 1 is fully observable versus partially observable. Number 2 is single agent, multi-agent. 3 is deterministic, stochastic. 4 is episodic, sequential. 5th is static, dynamic. 6th is discrete, continuous. And the last one is known versus unknown. Every time there is a competition between the two labels. So 1 through 7, all the labels over here that we need to choose for a particular example. So say I have some example world for which I want to have a rational agent designed for. Then for that world, I will be doing or asking myself question, okay, is this world or is this environment fully observable or partially observable? So I'll be choosing one of them. Is it a single agent or multi-agent? Is it deterministic, stochastic? Is it episodic, sequential? Is it static, dynamic? Is it discrete, continuous? Is it known or unknown? And depending on my answer, I may come up with a 7 label representation. That is, some environment may be fully observable, multi-agent, discrete, episodic, dynamic, continuous. These descriptors will tell me more about the nature of the environment, and using this nature, I may then choose appropriately the organization of components that goes into creation of design for artificially intelligent agent. Okay, so I have now given you insight into why we want to know the properties of task environment. And when we are analyzing properties of task environment, what we are trying to achieve, we are trying to identify certain aspects of the environment in which the agent is going to work, because this is the environment which the agent is going to manipulate in order to succeed in its goal, do its activities, and complete its action as if it's a human being. So ultimately, we need to be able to label this environment into different labels using these different labels. Okay, now we'll look at what these labels are. Fully observable means completely observable. What it means is the environment can be seen completely, seen in, not in the sense of the vision, seen in the sense of by the sensors of the agent, whatever signals it is receiving or whatever percepts, as they refer to it, whatever percepts are received from the environment. Using these percept, agent can know the exact state of the environment. Fully observable means the environment state is completely observable or completely known by the agent using the hello, am I audible? I guess my voice was lost for a moment. Okay, so using the sensor that that particular agent has, fully observable environment means such an environment using these sensors, I will be able to define the state of the environment completely. So every aspect of the environment is known to the agent using the percept that it gets. Okay, so now agent will be in a position where it knows everything about the environment if the environment is fully observable. On the contrary, partially observable environment would mean the environment does not discloses all its characteristics through the sensory inputs that the agent is receiving. Only certain characteristics can be observed, can be known by the agent, and once the agent knows those characteristics, it has to simulate the state of the environment, and it does not have a perfect state of environment because certain aspects of the environments are hidden or not known to the agent. Okay, so that is what is referred to as partially observable. Now consider that you are working in a fully observable environment. You know the exact state of environment. The action that you would perform in such scenario would be more believable, right? As an agent, that those actions will be more believable because you know that the environment is in this particular state only. But now you consider that you are an agent and you are working in a partially observable environment, then you only know certain aspect of the environment and certain other aspects are hidden. Those hidden aspects you can only speculate, and depending on that you may believe that the environment actually is in this particular state. Now that belief that that particular agent has is not uncertainty. Okay, it is something that the agent does not know because it does not simply have any means to know that part. Okay, so the actions that the agent would take in such scenario when the environment is partially observable will be based on that those belief states. So I will have an array of action that if the state is like this, then I should do this action. If the state is like this, I should do the second action. If the state is like this, I should do the third action. In fully observable scenario, I can just have that mapping set, no issues, because I know exact state. But partially observable, I may be thinking that the environment is in some possible belief states, that we may believe that the state of the environment is like this or like this or like this. Okay, I'll just give you an example. Say suppose some environment is defined using four characteristic of the environment. Some environment is fully specified using four characteristics of the environment. Okay, if I know all the four characteristics value at an instance, say this value is say A, this value is say B, this value is say C, and this value is say D. So I know that the state of environment is ABCD. This is what we can imagine about a fully observable environment. So these are four characteristics of the environment, and if every characteristic has a certain instant value set to it, then we know exactly that ABCD is the state of the environment. Now consider we have a partially observable environment where this fourth bit is not observable. This fourth bit or fourth characteristic of the environment is not observable. I can only see the first three bits, and possibly this is hidden. Now when the situation is partially observable, I can see some part of the state, but the other part I cannot through the sensors that I have. Now what options I do have? I would think, say suppose the domain of fourth characteristic is any number between A to E. Suppose that is the domain of the values of this fourth characteristic. So from this domain, I can select value A, value B, value C, value D, value E to construct five different states, right? ABCA, ABCB, ABCD, ABCE. These five distinct states would be any one that represents the actual state of the environment. Okay, so agent won't be in a position to know the actual state of environment when we are working in partially observable environment. And find well, we ideally envision an agent works in a fully observable environment, but for many real world scenarios, you will have partially observability. Consider the taxi driver. Taxi driver has a mirror, back mirror, has the front viewport, but say suppose it is at a turn. Okay, if it is at the turn, it may not know what is on the other side of the turn. Okay, if the other side or the turn के साइड से साइड में जो व्हीकल है वो अगर हॉन्क नहीं करता तो उसको समझ में नहीं आएगा, या वो हॉन्क करता है लेकिन वो इतना ज्यादा लाउड नहीं है so that it can hear it. In that scenario, you are working in a partially observable environment. Okay, there are a lot of examples that you can think of, and you will be able to come up with certain situation which in real world is partially observable. Consider that you are playing a board game. Okay, board game, something like chess or something like tic-tac-toe. The entire board is visible to you. Okay, so you can know exactly where everything is there. So even the ludo, as many people nowadays play ludo on their mobile phones, I see, even that also, any board game, you take an example of that. Okay, in that example, every characteristic of the board or the game, as such, the environment in which you are working in is known to the all the actors, all the agents who are there as part of the game. It is known to them, so it is fully observable environment. When it comes to any card game, जो हम लोग ताश खेलते हैं, पत्ते खेलते हैं, any card game if you play, and say suppose your four persons are playing against each other, you just distribute the cards. You will know only your cards. You'll know what is there at the what is there on the hand, but you won't know what kind of cards are given to the other three guys. Okay, so the environment is partially observable. You can only think of what could be the different cards available with different other people who are taking or participating in that particular exercise. So that is what is referred to as fully observable, partially observable.